Hi guys, you're watching CoasterView's top 5 theme park tips, so let's jump into number 1. So, number 1, our first top tip is to get to the theme park nice and early. Try and get there around half an hour before opening and have an idea of what ride you want to visit first. We usually tend to pick a ride or a coaster that has low throughput or low capacity, so usually those coasters get a longer queues during the day, so it's usually a good idea to hit those first, or choose a completely random coaster. But it's always a good idea to have your first ride or coaster in mind before you enter the park, so you know exactly where you're going, you know exactly where you need to go to. For example, when we go to Thorpe Park, we usually go straight to Nemesis Inferno. As much as it's not my favourite coaster at the park, it's just one of those rides that always seems to get a steady queue built up throughout the day, and when it gets to that steady queue, it'll seem to maintain it throughout the entire of the day. That's why we usually head to Nemesis Inferno first. But yeah, so my top tip there for number 1 is make sure you know exactly what ride you're going to visit first when you get into the park, and also get to the park nice and early. You want to be aiming for about half an hour to... I mean, you can go earlier than half an hour, but we always recommend trying to get there about half an hour before, you know, the park actually opens, so we start letting people through the turnstiles to get you that best start of the day, and you should be able to hit 2 or 3 rides to begin with and get them done with minimal waiting time. So number 2, our second top tip is regarding annual passes. Make sure you know what perks and discounts you're entitled to when visiting a theme park, regards to what, because majority of the annual passes you can get out there, whether it's a Blackpool one, a Merlin one, or you know any theme park, in reality they usually all have some kind of discounts or benefits to having one, and make sure you're aware of all those before entering parks, because like for example at Merlin parks you get 20% off food and drink, also off merchandise, which it comes in handy, and as well, like with the Blackpool ones, you get discounts off their food and merchandise and stuff like that, but you also get 1 times entry into some of the European theme parks, which is a good thing to note when buying these passes or when using them. Also, another thing to say about that is when you are visiting a new park for the first time, especially let's say it's an abroad park somewhere in Europe or America, it sometimes works out cheaper if you're planning to go for multiple days to the park to get an annual pass, which might not be the first thing you think of. I know it wasn't the first thing I always think of, but like for example, we've been looking at sorting out Ventura again, and it's looking like it might be cheaper for us to buy an annual pass than to just buy multiple tickets, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's always another thing to look for when using your annual passes or buying them as such. Number 3, fast tracks. This one's a bit of a controversial one to some people. My top tip with fast tracks is to not buy them. I don't see the point in buying them a lot of the time. Yes, don't get me wrong, some days the parks can be very, very, very busy, especially in the middle of summer or when the schools are all going, but in my opinion I don't think you should bother buying them unless you really, really have to. I mean, there's been times where I have bought them in the past, but in recent years I haven't bought them in years because I just don't see the point in them. We always manage to get the majority of the rides done that we want to in a day without buying them, so my top tip with fast tracks is probably not to buy them. Another little thing I am going to mention though, while on the topic of fast tracks, even though it's not exactly the same, is if a ride breaks down, especially at a Merlin park, it sometimes happens at other parks, but mainly the Merlin parks this one's for, always stay in the queue. Unless you're right at the back of the queue or you've only just joined, stay in the queue, as what they usually do is they offer out priority passes, which is basically 1 fast track to either ride the ride that you was in the queue for, but obviously if it doesn't reopen again because it's a permanent breakdown, like it's going to be a long one, it's going to take them, you know, a while to fix and it won't reopen for the rest of that day, it will be valid for another ride, so you can usually use it on any other rides. So it's always worth hanging about in that queue just to see if they offer out a priority pass, because 90% of the time they will. So just keep that in mind if you're in the queue for a ride and it breaks down. Don't be so quick to leave the queue. Number 4, which is one that I think most people already know, is the queue times. So don't always take what the queue time says for granted, or on the app, or however the park does it, because a lot of the time they aren't correct. They're not lying to you. I don't think they make the queue times up. I just think they're not updated enough, and you know, you're never going to get an accurate figure, 100% accurate how long the queue is. I mean, don't get me wrong, you go to some places and they are pretty accurate, and I've even been told on towers some days and they've been really accurate, pretty much bang on. But this isn't always the case, so just take the queue time with an estimated time, like with a pinch of salt. Don't always assume, right, it says 40 minutes, it's going to be 40 minutes, because that might not be the case. So don't be upset if it's, you know, could take you an hour and it said it was only going to be 40 minutes. Have a good look at the queue before you decide to join the queue and think, does that look a 40-minute long queue? I mean, I think most people do this anyway, but I'm just saying that is definitely a very, you know, important top tip I would say to people, especially new people visiting theme parks. So that brings us on to the last one here, number 5, and that is taking packed lunches. I know a lot of people don't take packed lunches, but honestly, we take them all the time. They're a good way to save money, and there's a few advantages to taking a packed lunch. So what we do is we tend to take quite a light one, something that we can carry around with isn't going to be too much of a hassle to bring around the park with us. I mean, you can get lockers if you do want to take a larger packed lunch, but we just take a light one. And this is because, so we'll have maybe a light lunch, maybe about 11 o'clock, because most people go for lunch, you know, from 12 onwards. So we'll have an early one to try and miss the queues when everyone goes for their lunch at around dinner time. And then we'll have something maybe a bit warmer on in the evening. So say it gets to, like, you know, 4 o'clock, we might have a hot dog or something small, but again, just to warm you up, especially on a cold day, it helps. But it's just nice to have that bit of difference. But it definitely does help. The only thing I would say about taking packed lunch to the park, as much as they are a good thing, just be aware, especially with more parks including security, like baggage checks and stuff as you go into the park themselves, it will take longer to have your badge searched. Like we've been, I mean, sometimes you sail through and then sometimes you can be there for a while having your bag searched, so it's just something to think about. But at the moment, you know, all these parks are very inconsistent with how they're checking bags and stuff, so you can either be stopped or literally you can take a quick look at it and let you straight in. But 100% would recommend taking packed lunches, as they can save you a lot of time. And also, some of these food outlets during the day, especially at busy times, can get massive queues, so you can waste a good hour of your day waiting for your food and eating your food. Whereas take a packed lunch, nice and simple, sit down somewhere, find somewhere quiet to sit down, eat it, and then you're back onto the rides. And like I say, you can always buy something else later in the day, and it'll also save you money. So that's why it's one of our top tips here at CoasterView. So that's it for this top 5 theme park tips video. Like I say, it's the first video like this I've ever done, so if it goes down well, I'll maybe look at doing some more of these. I don't know, I'm just trying to do this at the moment to get some content on the channel, as obviously, you know, I've not been had anything to upload really with none of the parks being open. But yeah, so I'll see how this goes, and if it goes well, I don't know, I might look at doing some more types of videos like these, maybe a top 10 favourite rides or coasters, something like that. I don't really like to do things like this, but if it's going to get you guys engaged more and, you know, give a bit more insight into us here at CoasterView, I'm quite happy to do that. So thanks for watching, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one.